Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. This is the Network Live on Facebook every Friday at 4 p.m. right here with Dr. Winston McIver Jr., our resident MD and medical expert that we always go to for our COVID-19 updates. We have some other special guests with us today as well. Of course, Marilyn Hemingway, who is my, I won't even call her my co-host. She's the other host of the show. This little program. Yes, we always good to have you, President and CEO of the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. And we have two very special guests who've joined us today. We're talking about small business survival during the COVID-19 crisis. And who better to kind of walk us through this and guide us through this than Janet P. Graham, Area Manager of the Myrtle Beach Area Small Business Association. Ms. Janet, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us. And then we also have with us Taylor Rutledge, who is an up and coming young entrepreneur who is doing her thing in the Augusta, Georgia area, but she has roots in Conway, South Carolina. She has a business, Taylor Made Cakes, and she's doing some really big things, some delicious desserts and treats that she develops and actually is able to ship and deliver to people. You also have a storefront so folks can come in and enjoy what you produce. And so we asked Ms. Taylor to be with us today to kind of talk about what she is doing in terms of maintaining business to make sure that her small business stays afloat, because it is a very young business. And so we are so glad to have you here today, Ms. Taylor. How are you? Is there a little bit of a delay? Can you hear me, Taylor?
Did we lose her?
I don't know. She's still there. Can you hear us, Taylor? She was talking earlier. Okay, I'll send her a message and let her know, because she's just sitting there smiling all pretty, but I don't think she can hear us. All right, so I guess let's start with Dr. Mack with some COVID-19. Who's that? I can hear you, Janet. Can you hear Marilyn? Can hear Dr. Mack, but I think Taylor is frozen. I believe her screen is frozen. So I'll send her a little text. So Dr. Mack, why don't you go ahead and give us some COVID-19 updates?
Okay, thanks for having me again. In the last week, we're still seeing the numbers going up worldwide. In the last week, last Friday when we talked, we went from 2.2 million cases up to 2.8 million cases worldwide. About another 50,000 deaths worldwide. In the United States, we've gone from right under 700,000 cases to up to a little over 900,000 cases in the U.S. And as far as the number of deaths going in the United States, we've gone from 36,000 to 51,000 deaths in the United States in the last week. Number of positive cases in South Carolina in the last week. Now, mind you, Friday's results have not been released as of yet. I'm expecting those to be sent to me any minute now. But it went from 3,900 positive cases in South Carolina to 4,900 positive. So that's about 1,000 more cases in the last week in South Carolina. And the number of deaths have gone from 120 in South Carolina to right at 200 deaths. South Carolina, in Horry County, the number of cases have gone from 155 to 196 cases. And as of right now, in the last week, we've had 4 more deaths in South Carolina. In Georgetown, the number of cases have gone from 33 to 36, and the number of deaths stayed the same at 2. That's that's prior to today's results being released. Okay. Still in South Carolina, still less than 1% of the population has been tested. So I want to keep that in mind. Less than 1% of the population in South Carolina has been tested, which that's very concerning, because we still don't have a real estimate, a real true estimate, or an educated physicians even giving an educated guess on how many people are actually infected. So it's really important to still look at social distancing, even though things are being relaxed. Some states are doing almost a total relaxation. We're still having states that are still testing, less than 1%, less than 2% of their state's population. So they still don't have a real estimate, a real good measure of how many people are actually infected. A couple other things I do want to mention. There's been a lot of talk about a number of different strains of this virus that's popping up. All that means is that this virus has been around in the United States longer than we thought. That's all that means. Because viruses do change, they do replicate, they do change their genomic makeup, but typically not in a matter of days, not this fast. So this means that it's been around for longer than we thought. It makes sense. Patients that I've seen, patients that other colleagues of mine across the country have seen, think that this was definitely there a lot longer, especially some of my med school classmates on the West Coast, in California and Washington State. I mean, they can go back and say, look, we've had, cases that now are similar to this back then. The concern, of course, is that a person would come to the physician's office, they would get a strep test, a flu test, even sometimes a chest x-ray, and all those things come back fine. And you're like, well, I know this person's sick, and they're sicker than just a regular cold, so something else got to be going on. But of course, we didn't have tests to test for COVID-19, let alone even know what COVID-19 was. So I just want to make that point. The other point I want to make is that all these numbers that I give are they're grossly underestimates of how many people are positive. We're not testing enough people. And so with that, the numbers are still going to be low in the positive confirmed cases. Okay.
So Dr. Mack, have we as a country made any strides towards getting more tests or figuring out what we can do to have more of an indication as to how many people are actually positive? I know that we talked on previous programs that everyone probably won't be tested.
Right.
But, what is the game plan for that? Like, what exactly happens at this point?
Well, I think what's going to happen is there are a number of companies that have put up for FDA approval to do the antibody testing. The problem was there were some rogue companies that were putting out tests on the black market that had not been approved by the FDA. And so their validity, reliability, specificity has come into question. So now before these tests go out, the FDA has to screen these tests to make sure that they're measuring like they're supposed to measure. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I think that antibody testing will be done. It'll be done on a larger scale. Now, will everybody get one? I don't know about that, but it'll be enough tests that'll be done that people can have an idea whether or not they actually have been exposed to this. So that's one of the important things to that. I don't know how long it's going to take. The FDA right now is evaluating 4 companies and 4 tests for the rapid antibody test that they're still looking at to give approval to.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we are with that.
If I'm not mistaken, I saw an article about a company, Coastal Lab, that has an antibody test. Have you heard anything about that?
They're doing it. I don't know. See, here's what happens. I got a couple contacts that actually have called me over the last 2 or 3 weeks about buying these antibody tests. And the FDA has not been approving these tests. So I don't know what test Coastal Lab is doing, but the ones that I had the opportunity to buy were not FDA approved yet. So I'm kind of holding a little bit until some of these tests get out, they get FDA approval. So that way I'll know if I test somebody, I can tell them with a high degree of certainty that yes, you have been exposed. And the likelihood is that if you see this virus again, you shouldn't get as sick. Now that's the immunology part of this. So in other words, what happens is once you see the virus, your immune system builds up antibodies against the virus. The antibodies are there in theory to help fight off any reappearance or reintroduction or re-seeing of the virus again. So that way you won't get sick or you shouldn't get as sick. But these tests have to be tested to make sure that they're valid and reliable. And the ones that I had the ability to get, the two ones that I had the ability to get, they were not FDA approved. So I wouldn't get them. So some people I know are using them and they are testing with them. And they are, they're doing that, but I just didn't feel like that's something that I needed to do prior to having any FDA approval.
Okay.
A couple other things I want to mention. There's some terms that are coming up in the media that people are calling me and asking me about. And so I kind of want to bring a couple of them up today. Okay. So I kind of broke it down into two parts, and I'll be real brief with this. The first part is the latest in COVID treatment. That's kind of the way I term that. What is not the latest in COVID treatment is infusing Lysol or other disinfectants into your veins. Okay. So let me say, when you get this information, get it from somebody that went to medical school, not somebody that woke up one morning thinking they got a medical degree. So first of all, that's crazy. All right. So I won't even spend any more time on that kind of stuff. The second thing is Trump was touting his cocktail of the Z-Pack and the hydrochloroquine. And those studies have not panned out to be successful. They've had a few what we call observational studies, which simply means the person was given the medicine or given the cocktail, and then you observe what happens. Yes, there were some people that got better, but the question that physicians have is, was that the people that were going to get better anyway? And it had nothing to do with the medicine. Number two, we know each one of those medicines by itself carry inherent risk of the medicines, primarily cardiac. We do know that hydroxychloroquine can potentially cause a heart block. So that we know that in medicine, and it is a medicine that's used very judiciously and very cautiously, because again, it can cause heart problems. These medicines are not to be taken, and the problem is there's no set protocol on how to give the medicine. So I had a patient that called me and said, "Well, doc, I took the test. If I'm positive, will you prescribe me hydroxychloroquine?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I wouldn't even know how to prescribe it to you for this. I know how to prescribe it for rheumatoid arthritis. I know how to prescribe it for lupus. I know how to prescribe it for certain conditions that it's indicated for, that it's been studied and shown to be effective for, but not for this." The third thing on this treatment is there's something called convalescent plasma. I don't know if people have heard this talk, but basically what it is they're taking plasma, which is a liquid part of blood, which carries proteins, and it has antibodies in people that have been sick with COVID, and you take their plasma and you inject it into very sick people. Okay, we call that convalescent plasma. So in other words, you're taking blood and plasma from a person that has gotten over COVID-19, and you're giving it to a very sick person who is, in a lot of cases, about to pass away from COVID-19. That we saw that worked for MERS, SARS, Ebola, and some other viruses that were pandemics and endemics. It has not been proven yet in COVID. It's still in experimental studies, but they're doing that for some of the sickest patients where they're running out of options on what to give. Okay, so that's one thing. And then let me say this last part. The other part of it is, the other thing that's hitting the media that I want people to understand is the sicknesses that these people are having as a result of COVID-19. We're seeing more heart attacks, we're seeing more strokes, we're seeing more brain bleeds, and we're seeing something called COVID toes. I know people have probably seen some of that flash around the internet. Basically, what's happening is inside the blood vessels, when these people are sick, there actually is an inflammatory reaction that's happening. What's happening is it's disrupting the normal blood flow in the blood vessels. Now, and that's what's happening with these people's toes. They're not getting adequate blood flow down to the toes, and so they're getting this reddish, purplish discoloration, which has to do with the lack of blood flow going there. But if these people get sick enough, they can get a condition called sepsis. Sepsis is where they get an overwhelming infection in the bloodstream. That causes inflammation, that in turn causes the cells to clump, blood flow is less effective, blood cells start to clot, and you start getting organs that aren't getting the proper oxygen or blood. That's why people are ending up on dialysis, people are ending up on ventilators, because they're not getting the adequate blood flow and adequate blood supply like they need to get. So I just want to put that out there on some of the terms that are going around on the media.
So the flattening. Is the
Right.
flattening happening, or are we peaking? Where are we with everything?
Well, I still think we're peaking. We haven't seen flattening in South Carolina. It's estimated that May 2nd is supposed to be when we see our peak. However, that was under the assumption that all states would be closed down about 3 weeks ago now. We know South Carolina never totally closed. We know states like Georgia are opening. And so, again, it's hard to say right now because we still haven't got to that point where everybody was essentially closed down, like it was thought was going to happen. So, again, we really don't call it a flattening unless we see successive days where the number of deaths, the number of cases are starting to drop down. That can be really misleading because if you're not testing at the same rate that you were testing before, then you really may not have a true adequate number of is it really flattening or not. All that's really kind of based off the fact that you're testing roughly the same amount of people, but you're seeing less positive cases. Right now, South Carolina still tested less than 1% of the population. There's 5.3 million people in South Carolina. Less than 50,000 people have been tested. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm. That's
a problem. You can't draw an inference on something when you've only got less than 1%. You can't call a political race if only 1% of the votes are in.
Right. Right. Okay. So we, of course, have Janet Graham with us today to talk about the impact that COVID-19 has had on the business community. And Janet, I know that there's some viewers who probably have a lot of questions about first of all, the resources that are available or were available to them from the federal government, but also, what they can do from a local standpoint to just make sure that they stay afloat in these very trying times. So, Janet, what do you have to share with us today?
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here with you, sharing this information, and it is very needed. We do have a tremendous amount of businesses who have been caught short. They have not planned for these kinds of days, and they are struggling to stay afloat. So the SBA and the Treasury have come in, and our politicians have come in, and they've made, in a very short time, they've made funding available to kind of throw a lifeline out to businesses and people to keep us from going under. And some of those are the Paycheck Protection Program, which is very popular, and the EIDL, or EIDL as we call it, which is the disaster part that the SBA has done. And they have other programs as well. And we can talk about that later if you want to. But because I do want people to understand that that's been refunded to the tune of more than $400 billion, and that the PPP, the Paycheck Protection part, is the major part that's being funded to the tune of like $340 billion. So you still have time. If you didn't get in that first wave, you still have time to get in and apply. That has to be done with a bank. You need to contact your bank. But also the EIDL funds, the disaster funds, you still have time to get in on that as well. So I would say that when they open those SBA portals, which I anticipate will probably be sometime today or this evening, you need to be ready to jump on there and get your information in so that you can get in the queue and be in line. You had asked what businesses can do now. I would say that the big thing is we need to really adjust. There's no more business as usual. I think that term is, I don't know if we'll ever be able to use that again because this is the new norm. So we need to be able now to look at what is rather than what was or what we want it to be, and really deal with the now. And with that, a lot of us have to adjust technologically. We need to be on social media. We need to be active on social media. We need to be marketing on social media. People need to be able to find us and know who we are and how we've changed our business model to adjust to this time. So don't be afraid of it. You can't break it. Just get out there and do it. Or ask somebody in elementary school or middle school. They can help us do that. You also need to be able to negotiate. Don't be afraid to call your landlord, your bank, and talk to them if you're having some difficulty. Suppliers, people that you're getting your ingredients from for your cakes or whatever. Don't be afraid to contact them because everybody's in the same boat. And if you can't pay it all, make a deal to pay some. And you may even need to negotiate with your employees because we have a new way of doing business now. So we've got to get out there, we've got to adjust, we've got to talk, we've got to negotiate. Most of all, be creative because we're going to have to create. A lot of times people are having to recreate their business and make something new. Look for new revenue streams is what I would tell my clients. If you have a restaurant and you've been selling hot dogs and that's all you did, maybe now's the time to add another revenue stream. Maybe you should sell something in addition to that, or change it up altogether. So create a whole new revenue stream and also try to diversify what you do. Like our grandma said, don't have all your eggs in one basket. Don't have all your money in the same business. Be doing other things too with your money. Let your money work for you. And also to understand what the market is. The market's changed and we've got to adjust to that market. Give the customer what they want, the way they want it, when they want it, but in this time. So we have to adjust to that. I would say that there are tons of resources out there and I'll pass it on. One thing I saw when I was just out there looking, like Shea Moisture, for example. Women of color know what that company is because they make hair products for natural hair. Well, I was out looking under resources and they have totally changed some of the stuff that they do because now they have something called an e-center, e-learning on their site. And they give you resources to help your small business to survive during COVID-19. So that's the way of thinking beyond just what you're doing. You want to keep your customers engaged, but you don't always have to be looking directly at how can I get to them straight on. Shea Moisture is looking at keeping their product name in their clients' minds. So that's some good advertising. And they got some good resources out there as well. So
that is some good advertising or a good strategy to keep their clients engaged because I think that some business owners believe that they have to have people physically in the building in order to connect with them, possibly make a sale or whatever the case is. But now's the time to kind of reinvent your business plan and your marketing plan to make sure that you have some other, legs to your strategy because it can't be one dimensional anymore. And this is one of the biggest lessons that we're learning about the importance of a virtual world and having some kind of connection to, digitally. So, it's really funny you mentioned Shea Moisture, and of course that's hair care. With everybody talking about they're not able to get into their hairstylists and their nail techs and their barbers. This is a great time for the stylists and the barbers and nail techs to host their own programs where they are at least giving people helpful hints and tips on what they can do in the meantime. I mean, I would appreciate that, from someone who were styling my hair. It won't make me not go to them. If anything, it'll help me to save my hair, so I'll have some hair, so I can go back to them. You got to get creative with it.
There's some video. Restaurants now are doing videos to show the back of the house, how they're cleaning, how safe it is because they're showing how they clean up. They're showing how they prepare their food. So those are some things like beauticians. They may be able to do those kinds of things. Put videos out to help people through this time so that you want to keep your brand in people's minds.
It's also known as social impact. I don't know if Ms. Graham has heard of that, but it's the social impact movement within the capitalistic system. But yeah, marketing is key. And one of the things that we're doing with the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce is we're doing 5-minute food finds. And we're featuring Gullah and African-American owned restaurants. And every Monday through Friday, at 10 a.m., we're featuring a different restaurant and we're just recording them and they're giving us, what are you doing during the coronavirus? How can I order food? And it's just keeping folks in front of their marketplace so that they're not forgotten, and also keeping money coming in so they can get to the other side of this pandemic. And it's free. And I mention that because there's so many free things going on online. People are out here trying to help businesses stay alive. Mm-hmm. And I think if folks can assign someone to take some time and just do some research and find out who's out there trying to help these small businesses, it would go a great deal towards them staying in business to take advantage of those programs.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back to one of our posters made a comment. Keith Skinner, thank you so much for viewing today. What are landlords' protection programs for both the tenants and the rental owners? Janet, can you answer that question? Do you have any information on that?
I know that I've heard of it before, but I have not actually heard of it being enforced like the governor saying don't go out. I know that there are laws that protect a landlord and as well as the person who is renting. But I don't know if there's anything that's been done now because of the pandemic. I've not heard of anything, but that doesn't mean that it's not out there. There are some natural human things that you would not do. But I don't know if there are any laws. I just don't know. That's something I could find out, but right now I don't know.
Okay. All right. Of course, as I said before, we have Chef Taylor on with us. Hey, Miss Taylor, how are you doing, Chef Taylor? Today? Yeah, you definitely earned that. All right. Yes. So the discussion that we're having about small business survival. First of all, let everybody know what type of business you have, and start with just kind of giving your thoughts and feelings about, what was in your head when you heard about the COVID-19 crisis. What were you thinking? And share some insight with us.
Absolutely, I sure will. Well, first, let me say thank y'all for allowing me to join y'all today. I feel very honored. My name is Taylor Rutledge. I am owner and operator of Taylor Made Cakes here in Augusta, Georgia. Though I am in Georgia, I am a South Carolina native from Horry County.
Yes.
So I definitely know the streets. But and what I specialize in is like cakes, cheesecake cakes, like I have mini bundt cakes and things like that too. Right now my main the main item that I am selling are my cheesecake cakes, which are selling like hot cakes even though they're cold. But my initial reaction when the COVID-19 pandemic started was kind of scary, because I was planning on launching my my grand opening actually like the week after Masters, to kind of bring in some of that Masters traffic that was still here, like in Augusta, Georgia, because that's where they host the Masters tournament. But with that being canceled, and then they were canceling, like allowing people to come into restaurants at, like I have a dining room, but people aren't able to come in and, sit down and eat because of, cross contamination and things like that. So with that being said, luckily I actually have a drive-through window. So I was able to kind of close off the lobby, but I've still been able to have people come through my drive-through window. And so that was a big plus that I received when I got this building. And so with me, one of the other things that we've done is we do online ordering. So if people don't want to, deal with the transaction of like money and credit cards coming through the window, they're able to order it online. And then I also for my own practices is I sanitize the card swiper in between each person. I have a new set of gloves that I use with each transaction. So I'm trying to be extremely careful and very very conscious, like a lot more conscious than, you know, prior to the pandemic. You know, it's just like everything has to be thought about. Everything that's touched has to be thought about, because I'm making something for people to eat, to consume. So to protect me and to protect them, I'm doing everything I can to keep us all safe.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So you already had online as a part of your business mix, right? As part of your plan.
Mhm.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
ma'am. Mhm.
All right. And
Yeah.
if you don't mind sharing, how much do you think has happened in terms of business traffic? What has happened in terms of whether or not there's fewer or a decreased amount of traffic since COVID-19? Do you think people are, definitely trying to get to you because they can't get out and they want cake, or are they really staying away because of COVID? What's really going on with your traffic?
Mhm. So it's kind of in between. So I have a couple, like I've had a couple people come through and they were like, I haven't been out of the house in 3 weeks and I'm only coming out because I want a piece of cake. And so that like warms my heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, but then there are some people and they're like, okay, well, once this pandemic is over, I'm gonna come out of my house. I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna come get some cake, but I'm staying inside for now. So the traffic is kind of, it's up in the air. But some days like Fridays and Saturdays are really kind of busy, because those are people's people are off work early or they're off on Saturdays. And so I do have like heavy traffic that kind of comes through there. I will say that definitely having this drive through has been like the biggest blessing, because I feel like if I only had curbside available or where people would just like come in and like pick up really quickly, I'm not sure if the traffic would be as prevalent, because people love the fact of like just being able to stay in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, but you did a lot to make sure that your brand was strong and recognizable before all of this happened, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. With Rutledge Digital Marketing as
Mm-hmm.
my marketing expert. So my mother, in other words, she really like pounded in my marketing. Like prior to me actually having the brick and mortar piece, I was doing a lot of online sales with what are called cupcake in a jars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think like throughout the years, like I've been doing like specialty, like special occasions and doing cakes and cupcakes for like friends and family. And so that helped me to build my people, build
Mm-hmm.
my customers and my fans that follow me on Facebook. So having them, and actually what surprised me really was through the drive-through, I've seen a good amount of people that I went to high school with here. Like they were like, "Oh, I remember when you were baking in high school, and we had to come see you and like at your building." So that really like touched me too, because I haven't seen these people in years. And they've come through the drive-through because they just remember
Mm-hmm.
me from back then doing the baking, and they're just so proud to see me thriving and how far I've come. So.
Absolutely. So, you're a testament to having a strong strategy to begin with that allows you to kind of maintain through these trying times. But there's some people who may have only had a one-dimensional plan for business, and so it's making it a little bit more difficult for them. And I know that, through Janet's work, making sure that you have all of the pieces together before you actually go into business is one of the things that she tries to educate people about. One person commented that basically when it comes down to business, you have to make sure that you are legit and that you have everything in order, that you're, for lack of a better term, not bootlegging as far as business is concerned. I mean, we having a real conversation here, because if you are,
Right.
it's times like these that will come back to bite you and will cause you to lose everything that you've built up if you don't have it protected in a number of ways. And so, setting up the business properly, making sure that you have everything set up from the standpoint of state and federal guidelines puts you in line for to be qualified to receive the funds that are available now. And I think that that's what's happening with a lot of people. They were not, legit on paper and in filings and things of that nature. So now it's time to get the money, and they're unable to produce the receipts. And so, Janet, what do you have to say about, businesses that are trying to get this COVID relief funding? They're brand new LLCs, or they are existing companies and they are not seeing any movement. What do you think is the best plan for them as far as how to go about getting some help?
Well, they need to pursue it, because the funding is there, but you have to ask, and you really need to do some research first to know what it is you're going after, because the SBA has put out like 5 different products for this occasion. So first of all, I would tell people to go to the SBA website, www.sba.gov, and go to the COVID financing or funding options and find EIDL, EIDL. That's Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That's the first one I would apply for. And the portal's not open yet because they're waiting to put those funds in that just got approved. So I would be ready and waiting to apply for that. It's like a 10 or 15 minute application now. Have your paperwork that April just talked about that's correct, your financials, have that ready so that you can get that information off of there and put it on there so that you can get in line to receive these funds. If you don't ask, you don't get it. So if you don't do the application, you're not going to get it. So that's an easy up to $10,000 that you don't have to pay back based on how you're using those funds. And they're doing it like $1,000 per employee. But you can be a sole proprietor. You don't have to have employees. You can be an independent contractor. You can be self-employed. You could be a private nonprofit, or you could be a 501c19 and apply for that. So any business, I'm saying, go out and apply for the EIDL, or that's the disaster funds that were set aside for emergencies. And they're supposed to give those funds out rather quickly. That's one part. The other big part is the PPP. They call it PPP, which is Paycheck Protection Program. And that is designed for businesses to stay alive and to keep people employed. So they'll give you 250% of your payroll to pay people, to pay your mortgage, to pay your rent, and to pay utilities for the next 8 weeks, for 8 weeks after you get it. And if you use that money, whatever portion of it that you use towards paying payroll and all associated expenses with payroll, rent or mortgage, and utilities, you can get that forgiven. So it's like somebody's handing you money. And the part that you don't use for that, it's like a loan at 1%. So look into those things. Those are just the top 2. Look into those. But actually, you got to go out and you got to ask, and you got to do it. And that's what we don't want to do sometimes. We don't actually want to sit down and do it. But for the PPP,
we don't want to ask for help to get it done.
For the PPP, we don't want people to know our business.
That's right.
But for the PPP, you need to contact the bank. That's done through the bank. So you need to contact the bank. I would start where I bank first. If you don't get a good answer from them, call me or anybody with the SBA, and we can kind of direct you. The EIDL, the SBA is actually doing that themselves. So you can just go online and apply for that.
Gotcha.
I would advise everybody to do it now. You can't wait on this.
Right.
Once those funds get put in that account, it took 2 or 3 weeks before. I'd say 24 to 48 hours, those funds will probably be pretty much depleted.
Right. And as a business that has applied for those, we didn't get in the first round of the PPP, but hopefully we should get in the second round of the PPP, which just passed last night. And I did apply for the EIDL, and I don't mind saying that I did apply for the EIDL and was just compensated last night for the first round of that. So again, like Janet is saying, it's something that if you don't put the applications in, you're not gonna get it. They're not just gonna give it to you. I know some of the CARES program are actually helping physicians as well to try and help stay afloat during this time. Be used in whatever kind of way you need to. We've gone totally telemedicine here in the office. So my visits are done that way now to try and help promote social distancing. Some of the issues with that is that you can't do telemedicine with a new patient. So it has to be an established patient. Mm-hmm. So for a while, we were still seeing new people in here just to get them in the queue so that if we needed to do, telemedicine, we could. But as it stands right now, we're totally telemedicine here in the office. I had to make that decision because we had a couple people with COVID-19 that showed up in the office that I saw. And so for the protection of myself, my family, my employees, especially, we had to redo and regroup and adapt to what's going on right now.
April,
yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
May I encourage anyone who has applied for EIDL the first time and they've not heard anything, they need to be checking their business checking account often because the SBA is just dropping the money in there and they aren't giving you any notification.
Right.
So they don't have to reapply because that's a question.
No.
You do, okay.
I do have a quick question because I did apply for the EIDL and I received. It was an interesting letter. It told me that it would drop into my account, but it really didn't say that I had received it. Right. And I really, Dr. McIver, thank you for mentioning. I need to go check my account today.
Yeah.
They may have just
your coins are there.
I applied April 1st, and this morning when I woke up, it was just in the account. And there hasn't even been an email sent to me saying it was put in the account. So it was just dropped in the account last night. And so again, you want to check that periodically. But it took from April 1st until 3 weeks. It took 3 weeks for it to drop in there. And so that's kind of what happened with us.
And I do want to reiterate what Ms. Graham has already said. And April, you also mentioned it also. So many of us, I come across so many of our businesses who do not have their paperwork in order. And this is a lesson that we have to be about the business of doing business. And I run into this so often. And one of the programs that we're implementing at the chamber are classes on how to be a business, getting folks through that paperwork. Because in particular, in the African-American community, we operate under the table. We operate on a cash basis, and we will not complete that paperwork for a number of reasons. One, we have the idea of, I don't want people in our business. But if you are in business, you have to be about the business of doing business. And unfortunately, a lot of us are getting slammed at this point during the pandemic because we simply don't have our paperwork. And I do want to reiterate, get your paperwork straight, people. During this time, get your paperwork straight. Take your time and get that paperwork straight. It's worth the investment.
It is. And don't be too proud to beg, so to say. It's okay. We have all of these professionals who know what to do as far as leading you in the right direction. It's not about getting your business or seeing your financials, but it is about making sure that you are tapping into the right sources for information. And later on, we can't use the excuse that, they gave it to this person, they gave it to that person, only a certain segment of people are getting it. I just posted a very serious message on the network. I have almost 3,000 members in the network, and less than 10% of the membership is actually watching right now. And that's ridiculous. If we're all business professionals, business owners, we're trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, we should be watching something like this because this is knowledge and knowledge is power. And so I hope that, we're not spinning our wheels trying to help people to thrive and survive when you're not taking that kind of interest in your own business. There's money out there to be had. There's a second wave of money that is coming. And it does not make any sense for larger corporations to get millions of dollars when small businesses are hurting and small businesses need this money to survive. Dr. Mack does not have a practice that has 4 or 5 or 10 locations. He is primary care on Singleton Ridge Road. He has employees. He's trying to make it happen. So it shouldn't even be a question about who's supposed to be getting this money at this very difficult time. So, make sure that you are sharing this live. Make sure you're telling people about it. But more importantly, if you're a business owner who is serious about your business, make sure you are filling out these applications and getting your share of the pie, because you know what? We pay taxes all the time, more than our share of times. And it's out there to be had. Why not? Why not do it?
It was pretty straightforward. I think it took me maybe 10 minutes to do the EIDL application. It was pretty straightforward. And so that happened. Like I said, it took about 3 weeks, but it is that first round is actually like a grant. So you don't actually have to pay that back, provided you do what you're supposed to do with it. PPP, similarly, as long as you do what you need to do with it, and it really will help out. I mean, and I've got 9 employees, and my goal is to try not to lay them off. I've got some colleagues in the medical field that have laid off anywhere between 30 to 90% of their workforce. I've got a colleague that had to lay off 90% of his workforce as a result of what was going to happen, impending decrease in funds. And the other thing too that's happening, and I don't want to get too much into this, is some of these insurance companies are playing games. I mean, we've had to refile claims on multiple insurance companies because they've changed the rules. And so you got to stay on top of that. I mean, I started in telemedicine kind of early compared to a lot of the other physicians, and even since that time, the rules from some of these insurance companies have changed. So just today, my office manager, billing person, had to go back and refile claims because the insurance company changed the rules in the middle of the game. So, it's one of those things where, I've got multiple businesses. My primary care is my main business, but I have to stay on top of that. I'm not only a physician, I'm a business person. And so I have to think that way, and we have to think of ourselves. Like Jay-Z said, I'm a businessman, not a businessman. So
okay.
And the deal is that if you don't do it, if you don't stay on top of it, you're only hurting yourself, you're hurting your employees, and you've got to stay on top of it, because if not, businesses are closing. They're closing. They are closing.
May I say too that, we hit on that we're afraid to ask for the money, but these big companies are. Ruth Chris last week got $20-30 million.
That's right.
So
Harvard got $9 million.
Ask.
Harvard got $9 million with a huge endowment.
Exactly.
So I would encourage anybody who's applied for the EIDL, they changed it right in the middle of the process. So if you applied real early, you've got an application number. So what you need to do is you need to reapply, because that first application that you did is not legitimate anymore. So you need a confirmation number. If you have a confirmation number, then you're in the queue, you're in the line, and you're being processed.
Right.
Okay? So check and make sure that you have a confirmation number. And if you don't, when that portal opens back up, be ready to go in and do that 10-minute or 15-minute application that Dr. McIver was talking about.
Right. And keep the confirmation so that way, if you have to call them, which I did call them last week, they were able to access my information by me giving that number.
Right. If you've applied for the PPP, which is the one that allows businesses to make payroll and to pay the mortgage and to pay utilities, you apply for that at your bank. If your bank, don't take it for granted that your bank is working on it and that you're being funded. We've heard tales of banks who are just sitting on people's stuff, and that's allowing other people to get funded while your stuff is just sitting on somebody's desk. Yeah. So you've got to be proactive with your lenders and call them and email them. I want it in writing. Email them and ask them, where am I in the process? Have I been approved? Do I need to reapply? And if your bank is non-responsive, there are some banks out there that are really kicking out these PPPs.
Yes, they are. Janet, there's a question. DJ Turk Nice, thank you so much for viewing with us. If someone wants to fill out an application with the SBA, where should they go?
An application for like EIDL and PPP?
Is that, if you
Yes.
will, post, please specify what kind of application you are trying to complete so that we can get this information. It says SBA is unable to accept new applications. Where should I go? So I'm not quite sure what this person is trying to get, but
He's going to the right place. It's just that they aren't accepting applications because the money ran out last time. The president has approved the money, but it hasn't hit yet. So the money has to be put into the accounts to be dispersed. So until the SBA actually gets that green light, the portal is closed and you can't do an application. So keep checking.
just keep checking.
Because I think it's going to open up, I'm thinking tonight sometime.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. And speaking of, making sure everybody has their receipts together, what's the type of paperwork? What are some things that people need to have together as they're completing these applications or even visiting the banks?
The best thing to have is if you've been in business for some years, you should have previous tax returns. So I would have at least, I think they're asking for 2000, maybe back to 2017, 18, and 19. If you've not done 19 yet, you can do a projection. Especially we got like 3-4 months in, you got real numbers for that, but you're going to be asked to project what you think it would have been had this pandemic not hit. And they're going to base your funding off of what you have done and what it's projected that you thought you were going to do.
Right.
Okay.
And here's another thing too. Like I said, I have multiple businesses, and this is a kind of a learning lesson for a lot of people that have businesses. You need to have a P&L. You need to have a profit and loss sheet, because that's very important to give the health of your business, not just what you're getting in, but what's going out. So in other words, you have a profit side, that's all the revenue that's coming in. You have a loss side, what you're having to pay out. And then whatever you're left with is the net. And it's important because a lot of business owners don't even know really what a P&L sheet is. I've had people call me that have come to the office. We've sat down. They're trying to start businesses. And I'm like, okay, let's start from the basics. Do you know what a P&L is? No, I don't. That's okay. I don't mind telling you. And again, it's one of those things. If you don't know, don't ask. But I've had multiple business owners or people trying to start businesses come to me and sit down and talk to me to try to pick my brain about what I did. You need a profit and loss sheet. And
you need to know what your cash is as well. Cash flow is very important.
Right.
Because the profit and loss is good,
Right.
but cash is king. It pays the bills.
That's
So
right.
you
That's
also
right. Money moves.
understand where your money is coming from, like you said, and where it's going, where the cash is coming in from, and where it's going.
And I want to mention, once I actually own more than one business also. Once I started making a little money, the first person I hired was a financial person. I know my weakness is the financial thing. I want to know where my money is and what's happening with my money, but I know I am not that financial person. So my first hire was a financial person to get my books in order, to get my P&L and my balance sheet straight, so I can do exactly what we're talking about today. When an emergency happens, I could go and tap into some money. I can fill out that application. It did take 5 to 10 minutes, but I had my paperwork in order and I can answer those questions. So not only are we dealing with an emergency situation where people have to go and fill those applications out, but take this opportunity to get your financial house in order for post-coronavirus, so you can take advantage of the opportunities that are going to be presented, because there are going to be opportunities coming out of this pandemic, but you got to have your house in order.
Right. The other thing you need to have too is your articles of incorporation. So making sure that you have that so they can show that you've been incorporated and you're a legitimate business, because banks are asking for that. People are asking for that. So you need to make sure you have that paperwork accessible as well. So if in fact they say we need this information right now, then you can get it to them right now.
And this money that's available, Janet, it's available for for-profit and nonprofit. Am I correct?
It's available for-profit, nonprofit, tribal organizations, sole proprietors, those people who are working on 1099s. The EIDL is available for them.
Okay.
But they got to go in and fill out that form. And I put it in the chat. the www.sba.gov. But the Turtonites that ask about, if somebody's doing the PPP, they can actually go to the Treasury site and find the form. It's like 2 pages, and then the other 2 pages are explaining those pages or something. But if you're going to a bank for PPP, you can get a head start and go ahead to treasury.gov and fill out that form.
Mhm. I had a question for
And, I have a
I think Ms. Taylor. Go ahead, Ms. Taylor. I had a question for you, actually. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a question for Miss Janet. Because for y'all that don't know, like I just started my business this year. And so like I don't for like a new business owner who doesn't have like prior tax records, when they apply for I have applied for the application, but I just want your perspective. Like when you do apply for it, what type of information would a brand new business need to have on hand, just to kind of beef up their application to make it look more, presentable?
You did apply for the EIDL, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. When you apply, I would contact my bank and talk to them about the PPP, because you can apply, but you're going to need to do projections. You've probably already done some if you had to get a loan to show what you thought you were going to do in your profit and loss or your cash flow and all of that. So now that didn't happen, we've got to adjust that to what it is. But now we can project it post-pandemic, and they can base what they give you off of that. So there's still hope. There's still money out there for people like you, but you've got to get in there now, today, and contact that bank. And even if the bank might be closed when you get off, go to the website. The SBA has a listing of all the banks that are doing all SBA loans. So if you find your bank there, you could probably go online and find a COVID-19 funding site that would give you all of what they're looking for. So you'll be ready when they reopen on Monday.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. I got you. Thank you.
I do want to mention also that, folks, a marketing plan can be 1 page. A business plan does not have to be 40 pages. And I think in our community, we get intimidated by the thought of we have to have these 40, 100-page business plans. You do not have to have business. Honestly, even before this, people didn't have time to read 40 to 100-page business plans. And you just have to state what your product or service is, how you're going to make money, and how you're going to pay back your loans or investors, your return on investment. And that's really some key points. And marketing also, how you're going to get the word out about your product and service. So don't be intimidated thinking, oh, I need to write a marketing plan. It could be 1 page. It's, think of it. What you want to do in 3 years, 5 years, even 1 year, and write it down. It's like a roadmap. Think of it as a roadmap rather than this big 40-page document that you have to create. And I think we get intimidated, then we get frozen, and we end up not completing paperwork at all. So folks, it only needs to be, think 1, 2, 3 pages, and that's it. Get it done. That's the thing. You got to get it done.
She made me remember
really
what I was going to.
She mentioned that.
Yeah. She also made me remember what I was going to talk to you about, but I want to ask this question. Cheryl Moore Adamson, thank you so much for viewing. Janet, is the application number the same as the confirmation number?
No.
Okay.
If you have an application number, you were in that first set that did the really complex application. They've thrown that out. So now you need to go back in and you need to reapply for EIDL and get a confirmation number. If you have a confirmation number, then you're in line to possibly receive funds. But that old application number, all that's under their old, their website got hacked. And I think they shut it down with all of that old application stuff and they started over. So you've got to, if you have an application number, do a new EIDL and get that confirmation number. Good question.
Okay, thank you. So Taylor, what can you say to viewers, especially those who are brand new to business, about managing their expectations, especially through a time like this? Because I think that a lot of people go into business and they think the first year out the gate they're going to become millionaires, and unless you have
Right.
something that has never been thought of or done before, that is totally
Yes.
unique and definitely needed, it's not going to happen. So expectations for first year, but also what your new expectations are now that you're dealing with the COVID-19 situation.
Absolutely. Well, one topic I want to touch on is what Miss Marilyn was speaking on, is that like that business plan, thinking like if you're going to go into business, having like a business plan and a marketing strategy. And you see this, like, because if you go on Word, you can find like a template of a business plan, and you see that it's 40 plus pages, and automatically it's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
You want to shut down, you don't want to do it. But it's like she said, like, just create a roadmap, just jot down some points of, okay, so what do you want to accomplish with your business? Like, what are your goals? Start off with your goals and then build from there. I know that for me, given the crisis, and like what's kind of kept me going rather than feeling like defeated, is that I have a really good support circle. So definitely, for those of y'all out there, surround yourselves with people who are going to support your business and like speak life into it rather than speaking nonsense and negative thoughts. Because that we got plenty of negativity in the world. I don't need it in my business.
I know that's right.
So like surround yourself with the right people that will keep you encouraged, because not every day is gonna be like sunny and bright. Like yesterday here in Georgia, we had like severe thunderstorms, which slowed down the traffic of my business, but it didn't hinder me from still making production. So definitely like try to have a very positive outlook on what you want your business to have. That way you keep the passion going. Like it's your business, it's what you want. It's your vision, it's whatever it is that you want it to be. So even throughout what's going on with the crisis and everything, like I had a plan. I was going to have my soft opening the beginning of March. And then like the 2nd of April, I was going to have my grand opening. And then I was just going to make all this money and all this great stuff. And then boom, a virus.
Mhm.
So that kind of like put a hold on things, but it didn't stop me. So it's all about, what's the term? You have to be adaptable.
Excellent word.
Everything's
Mhm.
not, yeah, everything is not gonna go, peachy keen. Everything's not gonna be great. It's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be hard. But if it's your business and you want it to thrive and you want it to be here for years on end, like I don't want it to start in 2020 and end in 2020. That's not the goal. Taylor
That's
Made
right.
Cake is gonna be going on for years and years to come. And so having that mindset like keeps me going. One other thing I wanted to touch on was the paperwork piece, which my mom my mom and my dad are both very I'm very thankful for both of them, because they kind of helped me with the like, what all did I need? Like I already had my ServSafe certification to be in the food industry from when I went to culinary school. So I already had that like in my my back pocket. But like you said, you also need your LLC. You also need a business license. You also need, what else? A food service permit. Like there's a lot of things that go into like having your business prior to me even putting batter in a pan. Like I couldn't even sell anything until I had my paperwork in order, because
Mhm.
they can shut you down. If you don't have one piece of paper that I have hanging up over here, they can shut you down.
They
And
won't. They'll
that
come
doesn't
in and
like
shut it
that.
down. That's right.
They'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you thought you were selling. No, you're not.
Mhm. Mhm.
So they can shut you down. So definitely have your paperwork in order, have your support system, and have passion and believe in yourself. Because like if you're not your biggest cheerleader, regardless of what else is going on in the world, like your business isn't gonna thrive because you're not all in it. So for me, I'm all in it. I don't have, this is my only source of income at this time. Just being completely transparent. But I'm making it work. You
That's
know,
right.
like I want it to work. I want it to be. I want it to be the only thing that I do because it's my passion. Like I've wanted to do this for years. So
And others have made it work, so why not you?
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So
You know?
why not you? Why not me? Why not, all of us? You know what I'm saying? Like, and when you have Facebook groups like a network where you can actually speak and talk with other business owners, people who have been through the beginning stages, like use your resources. That right there is probably right after your support circle, use your resources because there y'all have given me knowledge today that I didn't even know that I needed. So it's very beneficial and listen. I guess like that's another point too. It's just listen to those around you. Some people really do mean you the best and want the best for your business and for you. So just listen, be receptive. Yeah, and stick to it. Absolutely, stick to it.
Awesome. But before, because we're definitely, we could talk about this all day. It probably needs to be a little serious, but want to thank Terry McLean for viewing today. And she brought up a really good point that as a small business, you also need to remind yourself that you must pay yourself a regular paycheck to make sure that, you're treating yourself like an employee. And then that way you will get used to the idea of earning money as well. It's more than just earning money for the business, but it's, your actual earnings, you're paying yourself and you won't feel deprived. You won't feel like you're always pumping everything into the business. And, my father was a business owner and he did that as well. He paid himself a paycheck. So, these are just some they're fundamental things really, but a lot of times, as we joke sometimes, reading is fundamental. It may not be fundamental for everyone if you've never been exposed to a fundamental message about it. So, Taylor, the information that you've given us today and the inspiration has been wonderful. Dr. Mack, I really want you to chime in on what businesses need to do moving forward as they're reopening, as they're starting to invite customers back in. You have barbershops, hair salons, retail establishments, restaurants. What are the things that they need to do to make sure that they don't have a major outbreak in their establishments or that they're protecting themselves and their employees from COVID-19?
Well, that's a very good question, April. And what my recommendation would be, still have number control of how many people are in your establishment at one time. I mean, like I said earlier, social distancing is just more than just 6 feet apart. It also has to do with the number of people in a enclosed or confined space. So we have to keep that in mind. And I think, a lot of people just think, oh, I'm 6 feet apart, I'm 6 feet apart. But yeah, if you've got 100 people that are 6 feet apart, then you still got a lot of people coughing, people sneezing, stuff getting airborne. I mean, it's still a potential risk. I would make sure that you have disinfectants to wipe down your seats, your chairs, your counters, and those kind of things. Another thing too that Ms. Taylor said earlier that I was glad to hear was that she says she changes gloves frequently. There's some people that put on one pair of gloves and they're using that same pair of gloves all day long. So
Goodness.
They just took the germs from Food Lion. They took the germs from the gas pump.
They went to Chick-fil-A with the germs.
From Chick-fil-A, and they took the germs and they took it back to their house. So, I mean, please take these gloves off, change them frequently when you go from one spot to another. Take those gloves off because all you're doing is just bringing something home. When I get home, I take my shoes off, I take my clothes off. I'm almost streaking in the house. And so you got to take that stuff off. I mean, just surfaces, high traffic areas. You just want to make sure that there's even talk now about the COVID virus being on the soles of the shoes. I mean, if there are areas that can be mopped, you want to mop those areas with Lysol, Clorox, disinfectants to make sure those areas are being clean, high traffic areas being wiped down. just to make sure that you're doing your best, not only to protect your clientele, but also protect yourself and your family when you go home. But I would not recommend having a bunch of people up in a spot all together at the same time. I know in my office we only have no more than 5 people in the office at a time, and now we've actually knocked that down to about 3. So we're really cutting down on how many people are coming in, and still I would recommend wear some type of facial protective device, whether it be a handkerchief, whether it be a mask or what have you. I would recommend that. The other thing I do want to say too is if this COVID-19 holds true to other pandemics, there will be a second phase to this, and possibly even a third phase to this. The problem is, and this is what medical community is concerned about, is that most of the time these second phases are happening anywhere between 3 to 9 months after there's quote unquote a flattening. 3 to 9 months is going to be wintertime. And so I don't know what's going to happen. A lot of people don't know what's going to happen with schools, what's going to happen with college athletics. I mean, I'm an athletic medical director at Coastal Carolina, and football is big. I don't know what's going to happen with football in college athletics this coming fall. I don't know. So that still is to be determined. The committee has met and recommendations have been given, but those things are so far preliminary right now until, it's almost like, okay, we definitely will be talking about this again and again and again and again. So, it has a whole lot of ramifications for a lot of different things. And a lot of it we just don't know. But the first thing is to get this curve flattened. I do want to say this. In South Carolina, of those that tested positive, 3.9% have died. So I want to say that I'm a numbers guy, I'm a math guy, I'm a statistics guy. 3.9% of the people that have tested positive in South Carolina have died. Over the past 7 days, there's been a 20% increase in the number of cases. Again, I have to say that with the understanding that less than 1% of the population in South Carolina has been tested. Less than 1%. So we don't know how many people have this. Right now the numbers are probably somewhere. I haven't seen today's numbers just yet because I've been on here. But, I'd say it's going to hit over 5,000 today. So total positive cases. So that means that there's 5,000 people that have been confirmed. There's probably anywhere between 10 to 20,000 that have it that haven't been tested. So, again, this is facts. This is not fear. I've been talking about this now for about 6+ weeks. And just what is happening is what in the medical community we thought would happen. And so again, I don't know when this curve is going to go down, but I can tell you if this holds true as other pandemics have, there will be a second phase. Like I said earlier, for some people that might not have heard it earlier, they're talking about all these different strains that are out. Well, all that means is it's just been around the United States longer than we thought.
Dr. Matt, you said different strains, and that brought up another thought. Please address this thing that was going around on social media about canine coronavirus vaccine. Okay. I don't know if you saw it or not, but there was the picture going around about it.
Coronavirus is a family of viruses. There are different types of coronaviruses. So animals have theirs, humans have theirs, but they don't usually go from an animal to a human. So there have been canine animal coronavirus vaccines out to help protect those animals. It has nothing to do with corona because COVID-19 is a type of coronavirus. So people sending me stuff saying, well, man, if we had this vaccine for coronavirus out for a long time, why are they still looking for one? Well, because COVID is a type of coronavirus. Okay? They're in animals. They're in humans. The common cold is a type of coronavirus. But because these viruses change, they replicate, they mutate, that's why we have never found a cure for the common cold. We can put a man on the moon, but we can't cure the common cold because those viruses change.
They change.
Every year, they do a minor change, which is called a drift. Every 3 to 10 years, they do a major change called a shift. Every 100 years, you have several pandemics that happen. So that's the immunology behind that.
All right. Well, y'all, this has been great. We're running at about an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to ask Ms. Janet to give some final thoughts on, maintaining a sustaining business before, during, and after COVID-19. Please let us know what your final thoughts are.
Okay, real quick, I would say to go out, make sure you apply for the PPP and the EIDL. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Also, I would say for us to take care of business in a business-like manner. You got to do the paperwork. You can't have it both ways. So do the paperwork. And as we said before, I said adjust, y'all said adapt. We've got to adapt for what the times are. But in that, make sure that, and like Marilyn Hemingway said, there are going to be different opportunities coming out of this, new opportunities to do business. Make sure that you're looking for those and making a business that's going to address that, because the businesses that last are the businesses that address a need, that serve.
There you go.
Find something that people have to have and do it. Diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't just, okay, Miss Cake, bake cakes, but do something else too, okay? So just find some things at some point that you can, so that if the cake market goes down, you've got something else that you can depend on. And then go digital. We gotta get online. That's a biggie. You gotta go digital. So those would be my biggies.
All right, Marilyn, what are your biggies?
Wow. Very much what Ms. Graham said. And what I want to emphasize to people is I started the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce to serve the need of what Ms. Graham just talked about. She's more of an expert than me. That's her field. But I have been in the Chamber of Commerce business for about 10, 15 years now with business associations, helping the membership. So I would give the same advice, but I would also tell you, call Ms. Graham and take advantage of our services. Right now, I give actually a lot free. Even when I open my doors, I give a lot free because I recognize in my community, the need is great. The lack of knowledge about being a business. And if I don't know it, I will send you to the correct resources. If you have a marketing plan, anything you write down, you want to shoot it by me, contact me. Contact me at my Facebook page, Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce.
Put the information in the comments again, please.
Yeah. I did. And I'll do it again. Just contact me with any questions. And that's why I'm here. I'm a resource for my community. And as Ms. Graham said, do more than one thing. I have more than one business. I have the Chamber of Commerce where I somewhat give my skill set away at a small price, but right now I do most of it free. But then I have another business where I have clients who really pay me. That's what pays my bills, where I pay myself. So I cannot reiterate enough for folks. If someone's offering the services to you free or discounted, take advantage of it. It's not only the chamber, but on the internet right now, not only learn how to be a business, but there are a lot of free workshops, seminars going on now. Improve your skills. There's a lot of free stuff out there now. If you don't know about finances, if you don't know what a P&L is now, Google it and go to reliable sources because they're out there. Go to Horry Georgetown Technical College, go to SBA, go to Coastal Carolina, they have courses. Harvard University is giving away free courses. They're out there. So not only know more about being a business, improve your skill sets. We have the time. A lot of us have the time right now to do
we
it.
have the time now.
Take advantage of it, because when we come out on the other side of this, we have to be prepared. And I'm glad what Chef Taylor said about being adaptable. That's one of the major skills you need to have. We are all going to have to adapt in this situation. I'm doing it myself. And that's one of, it's a skill set that we can actually attain and retain. And then my last thing, we need to start talking about generational wealth. Getting your paperwork in order leads to generational wealth. I cannot tell you how many businesses, once the founder passes away, dies, and I'm not even talking pandemic, that the business just ends because a lot of folks realize there are no books, there's no paperwork, and it was done on a cash basis. We've really got to get into that mindset of getting the paperwork together. All right. And thanks. I enjoyed everybody today. Very good subject. Good job.
Absolutely. Miss Taylor, do you have a final word?
Yes, ma'am. So my final word is, if you're just starting your business this year, and like the pandemic has kind of scared you away from either, continuing to pursue it or to even pursue it, still do it. Don't let this pandemic stop you from starting your business, because if anything, it can, like Miss Marilyn said, like it can push you into a whole new avenue that you didn't even think about that could have been a piece of your business, like being online or just going through like the financial workshops, or like listening to inspirational people. Like, for instance, like I know that for me, I listen to like inspirational podcasts, or like financial podcasts like Dave Ramsey, and just to try to keep myself on track and to hear about like what other people are doing to help their business thrive during this pandemic. So don't let your dreams die just because there's a virus going around. Let it push you into a whole nother subject, a different avenue, adapt to the times. Like that's what we've been doing for years on end. So keep adapting, keep pursuing your dreams, because next thing you know, you'll be on top of the world and this pandemic will be over with. So don't give up. That's my main thing. Do not give up.
Absolutely. Dr. McIver, I am going to let you have the last word, but ladies first. So, okay. But my greatest takeaway from this, first of all, I'd like to thank all of our special guests today. Of course, Janet P. Graham and Chef Taylor Rutledge. You guys have added a tremendous amount of value to this conversation today. And of course, Marilyn Hemingway, thank you so much for supporting this particular program. The one thing that I want you all to remember, I know that's right, I want you all to remember is, the purpose of the network is to make sure that we all connect, and not only connect, but we grow and support one another. Because my reason for starting this was because there were too many people saying that they could not find us, couldn't find the melanin in business. Well, the network helps you to find the melanin in business, and it helps you to support who's out there, and also helps us to identify, as Janet says, where the needs are so that we can continue to create business. So as a people, if we stay ready, we don't have to get ready. And that's what we need to make sure we are doing. So thank you all for joining us today. I've seen some really creative things on social media, and it's very encouraging. Even the DJs hosting the virtual birthday parties. I've been jamming out with DJ Turk Nice and, some of everybody. And I think it's wonderful. Keep doing what you're doing. And also want to give a shout out to my daughter, English, the Dreamer Apparel line. She's doing her thing even in the midst of COVID-19, along with Anna Lazette. Keep pushing forward. Small business is our business. And like Marilyn said, we got to be about our business if we want to grow our community. So thank you all again for tuning in. We'll have more of these types of programs. And yes, Keith Skinner, I will keep this going as long as you guys keep giving me topics. I'm going to let Dr. McIver have the last word about the COVID-19 impact. And then I'm going to let you know about the program that we're going to have next week on this very same live stream. So Dr. McIver.
Okay, simply put, protect yourself, protect your family, protect the essential workers, protect the healthcare workers. That's the way we're going to flatten this curve. I do think the numbers are starting to come down in a lot of places, particularly some of the hot spots. And I think social distancing is working. Just please protect yourself. be an advocate for yourself. You gotta do that, because that's the way that this is going to work. And I think it is working in a lot of places. We don't know, right now if the curve is flattening. We do know that, it does appear social distancing is helping. But again, just, protect yourself, because you never know. You don't want to, you may be fine, but you may, be in some place and take it home to your mom, your dad, your grandparents. So just be careful. Protect yourself, protect your community. Be good stewards of your community.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
And Dr. McIver, thank you for your tireless work. I mean, you go out and you help people in terms of the telemedicine and everything else that you're doing. And then you find the time on Fridays at 4:00 to sit with me so that we can get this information out to everybody. And we're not doing it for form or fashion or pay. We're doing it because we love our community and we want to make sure that everybody is informed and has credible information that doesn't involve Lysol and injecting yourself. Okay. But anyway, so I want to say, go ahead.
April, you and I talked about this back before we started doing this, and you and I were kind of bouncing off, all the misinformation and all the myths that were going around. And so that's, really what made me agree to do this. Plus, you know how you and I are. So,
yes, sir.
So I appreciate you and thank you for what you're doing, you and Marilyn, and I have to give a disclaimer that is my Aunt Janet.
There you
go. And Miss Taylor, I certainly know your mom and your grandmama and your whole family. So it's good to see you and good to meet you. Thank you all.
Awesome.
All right.
Good to meet y'all too. Thank you.
So next week, everybody, I'm working on a little something, and I think it's about time we hear from the young people, meaning our teens and our children, about their perceptions, their thoughts and feelings about the COVID-19 outbreak and how it's impacted their lives. And so next week, we will feature, maybe in a 2-part series, some teens from around our local areas who have agreed to be a part of the live stream. And we're going to talk to them and get their thoughts. And I'm still putting together that show. I'm going to be producing it in terms of, like I said, putting together maybe a couple of episodes, because there's so many young people who want to speak out. If you know any young people between the ages of 13 and 20 who would like to, talk to me about their feelings and maybe even be a part of the live stream, just inbox me, let me know, and I'll be in touch with you. But I think it's going to be wonderful to hear from them. And I'm hoping that you all will be here in full force to support them and to also hear what they have to say, because a lot of times, from those young minds, we can get a lot of insight and some guidance in a way that we've never even thought of before. They offer a lot of light. So tune in next week, this same time. Dr. McIver, it will be great, of course, that you're going to be with me on that. And Sister Marilyn, I know that you'll be around if you can be around, because you're very busy, but definitely want you to be a part of that show. And, tune in and just let us know. So thank you all very much for tuning in. And everybody just stay safe and God bless.
Thank you.
God bless. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.